All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're looking at a text that really flips the script on a story many of us think we know. It's called Korea and China, The History That Got a Facelift, and it asks us to take a second look at how nations write their own stories.
So, we're kicking things off with a pretty big question here. When we hear about China's incredible 5,000-year history, is the version we've all heard, well, is it the whole picture?
You've probably heard the story, right? This epic tale of a single, continuous history, stretching back for thousands of years, all centered around one group of people, the Han Chinese.
And, it's a really powerful story for a nation to have. But the analysis we're digging into today suggests that maybe, just maybe, that 5,000-year timeline isn't quite so straightforward.
Okay, so to really unpack this, we've got to start at the beginning, with the idea of the Han people themselves. According to the text we're looking at, where did this identity even come from?
Now, when you look at this timeline, something might just jump out at you. The text points out that this whole concept of Han Chinese as a specific ethnic group, well, it's not ancient at all. It was actually created in the early 1900s, so just a little over 100 years ago.
So what was it all about? The analysis is pretty clear. This wasn't some deep dive into ancient ancestry. Nope. It was a political move, plain and simple. The idea was to create a new, shared identity to unite people against the folks in charge at the time, the Qing dynasty, who were Manchu, not Han.
Okay, so if Han is a pretty new label, then what about the population numbers we see today? This is where things get, well, really interesting. It's a bit of a puzzle.
Think about this. Today, the official number is that over 91% of China's population is Han Chinese. I mean, that's almost everyone. Just keep that number, 91%, in your head for a second.
But, and this is a huge but, this source we're looking at claims that back in 1949, when the People's Republic was founded, the picture was completely different. It suggests that the Han, Manchu, and Mongol populations were all about equal, around 8.5% each. And look at that huge slice. Almost 75% of people didn't really belong to any of those groups.
So yeah, that leads to a pretty obvious question, doesn't it? How on earth do you go from roughly 8.5% Han all the way to over 91% in just a handful of decades?
Well, the answer, according to this text, wasn't about people having more babies. It was about paperwork. It was an administrative change. The argument is that after 1949, the government basically took that massive, unaffiliated group and just reclassified them as Han. And with that one move, the Han majority was created.
And this simple act of reclassification, it creates this massive problem, a huge contradiction right at the very heart of China's national story. It's like having two different histories at the same time.
Okay, so check this out. It's like there are two different histories competing with each other. On one side, if you say China is a Han nation, then its history should really only cover the smaller areas that Han dynasties ruled, which is about a third of the size of China today. But, on the other side, modern China has these huge borders, right? And those borders come from the Qing dynasty, who weren't Han at all. They were Jurchen or Manchu.
And the source really hits the nail on the head here. It calls this a logical contradiction. You can't really claim to be a Han nation and also claim the massive territory of a non-Han empire at the exact same time. It just doesn't quite add up.
So where does all of this lead? What's the big takeaway from this whole line of thinking? Whose legacy is it, really?
It all boils down to this, according to the source. If modern China bases its identity on its vast territory, then its real history, its direct inheritance, doesn't actually come from some 5,000-year-old Han story. The only logical conclusion, the text argues, is that the history of the Jurchen people's Qing Empire is the true, foundational history of the People's Republic of China.
And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. If a nation is really built on a story, what happens when you find out that maybe there was a different author? It's a great reminder that history isn't just a set of facts, it's a narrative, and it really, really matters who gets to tell that story. Thanks so much for joining me.